Felicia Sanmez, the Karen of the Washington Post, is fired. That is right. Our good friend Cam Harless has claimed a job at the Washington Post. So congratulations are in order to Mr. Harless the next time you see him. In other news, the January 6th committee, first hearing, and they're going to put 8 more of these things out, by the way, began last night. We heard testimony from a filmmaker who probably put all the footage together and edited and produced the film for CNN, and a police officer who was there with no cross-examination. So we'll talk just a bit about that and what's going on with that. Let's see. The FBI has been busy both raiding the home of a Republican candidate for Michigan, possibly the front runner, and the attempted Kavanaugh killer. So we'll talk just a bit about both of those, and we'll talk about gun control stuff as well. And a mother gets a weird feeling and checks on a live video of her son's preschool and finds a teacher abusing children. It is going to be all this and more, plus live chat today. I've got the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat written down here, so I can say a special thank you at the end of the program. Also reading some of the live chat today from some of what you guys are saying. It is going to be all this and more over on Contemporary. Welcome to midterm season. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Ed Heads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got a very, very packed show. Again, a lot of stuff was left over. I closed the tabs to go watch the January 6th committee hearing last night and stream it back out, just so we could run the stream and the video together at the same time and not have to worry about memory issues, even though, you know, I'm still used to working on the laptop, so I'm still used to that whole idea of, oh, we might actually run out of resources at some point here, and, well, we're just not running out of resources around here, so I didn't necessarily need to, but I noted when I opened the tab back up to go get the window back up to go get the tabs again, so we could start setting up for this show, and I could pick and choose what we're going to be doing for this show here. I noticed that we had 17 left over. And then we added a good chunk more here. So it's a fairly loaded show today. And I got a little bit of extended finance. A little bit of good news for our friends over at the Mad Ones. Absolutely some good news with that. But definitely, we've got a ton of stuff to go over here today. So let's get down into it. Honestly, not as much as the 1-6 stuff as I thought that we were going to be doing as of yesterday morning. When I realized that the committee was tonight. I thought it was just going to be like half the screen was going to be January 6th committee stuff, but really, honestly, just from looking at the initial reactions of this today, the amount of articles that were written about this, I think a lot of the mainstream outlets realize that the American people don't care. And we'll be seeing, like, the new unemployment numbers are coming up, too, so we'll be seeing what's going on with that. I think the 1-6 thing was an attempt to distract from the fact that I'm almost sure we're going to hit that recession point coming up in July. I'm more and more sure of this as we go along. But let's get right into it. And before we do, make sure you guys go over and head out the various programs from turnsofpagesproductions.com. Make sure you guys go and check out The Daily Ignoramus, The Porch Boys, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Breakdown with Breckenhoff. Go check all those shows out. They're great friends to liberty. They're great friends to freedom. And they're great friends to news and culture. So go and check that out. It's going to be a great time. Trying to set some time together now. This was a busier week than I thought it was going to be over at my other job. So I've been trying to get in and get everything set up so we can start getting an actual launch off of this and getting people on board with the idea of getting news by the people for the people. But then it's like work until 8 o'clock, and then, oh, look, the 1/6 commission. So that is coming down the pipes. We're going to be looking at that. But go check out those programs anyway, because they are great friends to you. They're great friends to culture, and they're just great overall people to have around. All right, let's look in at your finance for the morning here. Starting off with the Dow. The Dow spent its day in the toilet. It peaked up above the previous close for just an instant, right at the top of the trading, and then towards the end of trading, once we started to realize that the jobless claims are going back up, in spite of the fact, by the way, that summer jobs are showing up because people are traveling more, it's closing back up. One of the theories, and I want to extend off of this a little bit with what Styx has said, because Styx was talking about what's going to happen with the gas as it goes up and up and up and more and more and more. He was talking about that in a live stream yesterday. And I think that's going to be actually a part of what's going to happen with these summer jobs that would normally be filled with either a desperate adult who has no place else to turn, or some high school kid who is just looking to get some job experience. But, I mean, especially if you live in a rural area. If you live in the city and you can either walk or take the bus or take some sort of mass transit to something, it's going to be different. But there are fewer jobs, especially in the summer, where you're opening up summer jobs in the city. A lot of it's out into the country, towards the campgrounds, towards the rural areas, as you're going out to enjoy the weather rather than going out to enjoy the big tourist attractions. Yes, there are still some more with the tourist attractions, but if you do have to get up and drive 20, 30, 40 miles to have a minimum wage job, when does it stop being worth it for you? And I've been thinking about this for a while too. And I mean, just looking at the fact of that I used to work in Madison, which is where I worked in Madison was probably 40 miles away from where I'm sitting right now. So I'm driving 80 miles a day in a truck that actually gets fairly good gas mileage for a V8. 17 to 19 to 21 if it's a really, really good wind day. I got 21 going down to Florida with Stephen Ignoramus the one time. But even at 18, 19, with what I was making, which under most circumstances would have been a good wage, about the time you got past the $3.75 mark on gas, it's not worth it to go to work anymore. I'm spending more in gas than I'm spending more in gas than I'm making at work. By the time rent is gone and gas is gone, I don't have any money left over for food. And that's going to be one of these things. And I mean, that's making what is considered to be a very decent wage. When you're sitting back and thinking about somebody who's making $7.25 an hour, once you start going outside of 15 miles to work, then you're starting to have concerns about whether you're making enough to hold up with it. So that's my thoughts on that. And we'll be talking a bit more about that in the gas coming up here in a bit. But yeah, 32, 270, 279. Looks like the futures are not looking good coming into this, but we'll see what happens when we read from IBD. Your Bitcoin, bringing that out to the 5-day. Had kind of a steady bounce here. It's like the rubber ball. It fell down, it bounced back, it fell down again, and now it's just kind of doing those little dribbles as it rolls across the floor. At 29,715.40 right now, and it just dropped a little bit because it was at 30,000 when I started doing the stuff for Contemporary this morning, but still just kind of hitting steady. We've been for quite a while, for quite a few weeks, just seeing 28,000 to 31,000 and not a whole lot else. So I don't know if that's going to drop off or fall. I don't think it's going to spike big until we figure out the economy, but we'll continue to watch this and see where this goes. Thank you, Spartan, for putting that on the daily menu. Looking in at the gas. The Madison area. We've actually seen a little bit of reprieve in Wisconsin. I haven't seen what it is down in town. down in Janesville proper, but over here in Redacted, where I live, which is typically 10 cents lower, or I'm sorry, 10 cents higher than what it is down in Janesville. It's typically 10 cents higher here, but when I went by the gas station yesterday, it was 10 cents lower than what I put gas in for the last time. So we might be getting just a touch of reprieve off of this, a touch of relief. I don't know how long it's going to last, but looking in throughout the prices throughout the Madison area, Quick Trip is at $4.54 in Madison proper. The West Side Quick Trip is also at $4.54 in Madison proper. The Costco is $4.54 in Middleton. The other Mineral Point is at $4.54. Woodman's is at $4.59. The other Woodman's is at $4.59. Sun Prairie Quick Trip is up to $4.61. Costco in Sun Prairie is to $4.63, and Fleet Farm in DeForest is up to $4.63. So our big outliers on the high price are starting to slip off a little bit, but still we're seeing that tightening up. But no big reprieve. No go back down below 4, go back down below 3. Hey, go back down below 1 at some point. Pretty please? So that's what we see from that. And before we get into the main articles that we usually do, especially with some of the anti-police sentiment that some of our libertarian friends share, I thought I'd share this with you because we're talking about the gas prices. Michigan sheriff forced to limit in-person deputy response because record-high gas prices depleted fuel budget. That's right. The government can't even afford the fuel at this point. From Chris Enlow. One Michigan Police Department is limiting its service calls because record-high gas prices has rapidly depleted its fuel budget. The Isabella County Sheriff's Office posted a statement to Facebook on Tuesday explaining the agency is feeling the pain at the pump as well. We've exhausted what funds we were budgeted for fuel, with several months to go before the budget reset, the statement explained. Because of the budget depletion, Sheriff Michael Main has ordered his deputies to begin responding to certain service calls via telephone. Only calls that do not require an in-person response will be fielded by phone. I can see that one already. Help! Help! My husband's beating me! Okay, ma'am, calm down. Put him on the phone, please. I've instructed deputies to attempt to manage whatever calls are acceptable over the phone, the Facebook post explained. These would not be in-progress calls, non-life-threatening calls, and calls that do not require evidence collection or documentation. Holy shit, I was trolling. But could that actually be true? Deputies will continue to provide patrols to all areas of the county. They will respond to those calls that need to be managed in person, the statement continued. Any call that's in progress with active suspects will involve response by the deputies. I want to assure the community that safety is our primary goal, and we will continue to respond to these types of calls. And there is the Facebook post right there. Maine told WNEM-TV that his department will have exceeded their fuel budget by as much as $50,000 when the fiscal year ends on September 30th. No matter how high gas prices become, Isabella County emphasized that their responsibility to respond to emergencies in a timely manner will not be compromised. As of Thursday, the average in Michigan is $5.21 per gallon, according to AAA. Almost $0.25 higher than above the national average. In Isabella County, the average cost is $5.19 per gallon. Boy, am I glad I don't live in Michigan. That's actually sad. Now, less policing, I'm all for that. Less revenue for the government, I'm all for that. But again, at what point? Because I do sympathize with the blue-collar worker and focus my ire more towards the people who make the laws. You guys know that. You disagree with me, some of you, on some of that. But still, it comes down to the point of the woman is screaming, hollering. Man is beating his wife while she's on the phone. And do we get to the point of, okay, well, let's put him on the phone. Let's see if we can't talk this down. Oh, Mr. Bank Robber, no. You just leave there. We might have to send somebody out there. I mean, what's next? Talking down a drug bust via Zoom call? All right, let's see what IBD has to say. Investors Business Daily. Dow Futures market rally suffers big losses as key inflation report looms. I want to remind you once again that no matter what it is that they say the inflation is, which I'm guessing is going to be low 8s, high 7s to low 8s, whatever that is on top of the 3.5% that it was last year. A lot of your big news outlets won't tell you that. They'll say, oh, 7.8, we've got a handle on the inflation. And won't tell you that that's 7.8% on top of the 3.5% it was last year. Dow futures and S&P futures were little changed early Friday, while NASDAQ futures rose slightly as investors await a key inflation report before the open. The market rally suffered significant losses Thursday, with the major indices undercutting key short-term support. Beneath the surface, conditions are even worse, with decliners trouncing winners as we jump ourselves back up to the top. And breakouts not working. With that in mind, Ulta Beauty, Dollar Tree, and Canadian Natural Resources are right around breakouts. All have relative strength lines at or near 52-week or record highs. Ulta Beauty has been flirting with a 426.93 cup with handle buy point, according to MarketSmith analysis. Shares ultimately dipped 0.7% to 422.35 on Thursday. Dollar Tree is close to a cup with handle breakout, but is also sitting right above its 50-day line, so that could offer some more safety. Dollar Tree stock has a 166.45 buy point, but a move over Thursday's high of 163.36 would offer a trendline entry. Shares fell 0.9% to 159.85. Canadian Natural Resources isn't too far above its 50-day line and is part of the market-leading oil and gas space. Shares declined 2.4% to 66.65 near a 69.56 handle buy point. Canadian Natural Resources was Thursday's IBD stock of the day. Meanwhile, Fortinet rose 1% to 303.50, just reclaiming its 50-day line, fueled by a 5-for-1 Fortinet stock split announcement. Shares neared the 200-day intraday, but backed off as the market sell-off intensified. The cybersecurity leader is worth watching, with its RS line rebounding towards highs. Fortinet is in a messy consolidation and is a long way from traditional buy points. Fortinet is an IBD long-term leader. Investors could take a position in Fortinet stock as the long-term leader if it regains its 200-day line decisively, but recent gains have come on light volume while the current market climate isn't encouraging. Tesla fell 0.9% to 719.12. For a second straight session, Tesla backed off solid intraday gains, hitting resistance at the 21-day moving average. Tesla is a long way from being actionable. China sales and production rebounded in May, while Tesla Shanghai output reportedly is now back to full capacity. Meanwhile, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is expanding its autopilot probe to 830,000 Tesla EVs. The investigation started last year with a focus on autopilot crashes with emergency vehicles. NHTSA is seeking to determine if autopilot undermines the effectiveness of the driver's supervision. No, it doesn't. I keep saying this. You should not be relying on autopilot. It's a cool idea. It's a cool technology. But as we keep seeing over and over again, the tech isn't there. Take it out of your cars, bring it back to the drawing board, put a couple test vehicles out there, but don't put the actual system out on the road yet. You're not ready for that yet. The Consumer Inflation Report. The Labor Department will release the May Consumer Price Index at around 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Economists expect a 0.7% jump versus April, led by energy and fuel prices. The CPI inflation rate should dip for a second straight month to 8.2% from April's 8.3%. But remember, that is on top of the 3.5% that it was at this time last year. But that isn't a notable decline, and there's a significant possibility that the overall inflation reading will pick up. Stock and bond markets could react to a hotter inflation reading, and they could react badly. Core prices should climb a solid 0.5%. Month to month, core inflation is expected to cool to 5.9% from April's 6.2%. The Federal Reserve wants to see inflation coming down significantly, with labor markets cooling enough that wage pressures don't keep inflation too high. The Federal Reserve wants, let's see. So that's what we see coming off of that. On the futures, Dow futures fell less than 0.1% versus fair value. The S&P edged higher, and the Nasdaq climbed 0.3%. Crude oil rose slightly, back above $122 a barrel. The 10-year yield rose 1 point to 3.05%. The CPI inflation report is sure to swing Dow futures and Treasury yields before Friday's opening bell. U.S.-listed Chinese stocks rebounded somewhat on Friday after tumbling Thursday on weak earnings, regulatory news, and COVID restrictions. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So, we will see what happens with that. Let's grab one from CNBC. The 2-year yield surges above 2.9% on a hotter than expected inflation report, which means that it's out, which means that we're going to interrupt for a live update. Oh! This just in from Yahoo Finance. Inflation hits 40-year high as CPI raises 8.6% in May. 8.6. Oh no, we think inflation is going to cool to 8.2%. And again, as I said at the top of the show, do remember this is on top of 3.5% last year. 8.6% inflation. How is this sustainable? Don't worry though. Don't talk about any of this. Talk about the January 6th committee. Remember, we produced that for you to pay attention to. The bottom line from CNBC: the recession will hit in the first half of 2023, and the Dow is headed lower. CNBC CFO survey from Eric Rosenbaum. Many economists, prognosticators, and Wall Street stock pickers have made it clear where they stand on inflation and the Federal Reserve policy response. The economy and markets will get worse before they get better. Many chief financial officers as top companies agree with them, according to results from the latest CNBC CFO Council survey. Over 40% of chief financial officers cite inflation as the number one external risk to their business. And going deeper into the results from the Q2 survey, the links between geopolitics and food and energy prices and inflation are clear from the C-suite ranking of the external factors that are weighing on their current outlook. Almost 1/4 of CFOs cite Federal Reserve policy as the biggest risk factor, and as the Biden admin struggles for ways to increase oil supply and Russian ships sail with seized Ukrainian wheat amid concerns about a severe global food insecurity crisis, additional CFOs cited supply chain disruptions, 14%, and the Russia-Ukraine war specifically as their number one business risk. CFOs are not uniformly in the view that the Fed won't ultimately be able to control inflation. A little over half express confidence in the central bank, but that's not enough to alter their view of where the current economic conditions and policy decisions are heading into a recession. I don't think we're going to make it to Q1 either, by the way. I'm pretty sure that we are going to see, especially since we just saw an 8.6% inflationary spending jump, that we're going to see, I don't think it's going to be as bad. I will admit that. But I think it's just going to crack just slightly below what it was last quarter, which 2 quarters of recession in a row, of shrinkage in a row, is a recession. My prediction is 0.8 to 0.5% reduction in GDP for Q2. So that's what we see off of that. I got a couple more finance ones here for you, just talking about the jobless rates that we saw last year. U.S. unemployment claims jumped 27,000 to 5-month high of 229,000. From Jeffrey Bartrash. New filings for unemployment benefits jumped by 27,000 last week to 5-month highs of 229,000, but almost the entire increase appeared to stem from seasonal quirks tied to Memorial Day holiday instead of rising layoffs. Economists polled by the Wall Street Journal forecast initial jobless claims to total 195,000 in the 7 days ended June 4th. The figures are seasonally adjusted. Raw or actual jobless claims were a little changed, however. They edged up to 184,604 from 183,596 in the prior week. Normally, the government's seasonal adjustments don't produce such large discrepancies, but the Memorial Day holiday likely threw them off. Holidays can often generate sharp swings in the claims figures. Almost all the recent increases have come from seasonal adjustments, said Thomas Simons, money market economist at Jefferies LLC. The 4-week average of new jobless claims, seasonally adjusted, rose a smaller 8,000 to 215,000. So, some things to look at there. Our unemployment seems to be going up just slightly, while the inflation is going up rapidly, and the economy is probably going to shrink. I'm actually going to skip this other CNBC article. Let's get into the main news of the day. And our start. The first thing that we're going to do today, before we even get to the January 6th stuff, is a congratulations to our friend Cam Harless, as he has claimed a head at the Washington Post. From CNN Business, the Washington Post fires reporter Felicia Sonmez after a week of feuding publicly with her colleagues. All over a simple tweet. A retweet, if you will. A joke. I think that all women are bi. You just have to decide whether it's polar or sexual. That one tweet launched a tirade from one Felicia Sonmez, which ultimately wound up with her losing her career. Well, her job. She might get picked up by somebody else. Hey, CNN might go pick her up at this point. The Washington Post on Thursday fired Felicia Sonmez, the reporter who has been extraordinarily critical of her colleagues and the newspaper's leadership over the past several days. Two people familiar with the matter told CNN on Thursday. The Post termination notice, a copy of which has been seen by CNN, said Sonmez was fired for misconduct that includes insubordination, maligning your coworkers online, and violating the Post standards on workplace collegiality and inclusivity. We cannot allow you to continue to work as a journalist representing the Washington Post, the letter concluded. Reached by phone, Sonmez declined to comment. The Washington Post also declined to comment. The Daily Beast was the first to report Sonmez's exit. I'm going to be realistic with you. Number one, I'm not the boss. Well, for Turns the Pages I am, but we're still working on getting that launched. I am not the boss in any of my endeavors. I've been the boss once, but that was because my direct superior, the owner of the company, was committing tax fraud and he was looking for a fall guy. But if I was the boss, and an employee came to me, like if I was working, especially, this is usually prevalent at like grocery stores and stuff like that. High school jobs, minimum wage jobs, stuff like that. And an employee was coming to me saying, "Little Larry is doing this, go fire him, go fire him. I can't work. It's either going to be, you have to decide if you want me or you want little Larry over there." I would say, okay, bye. I'm not keeping you around for this shit. And really, honestly, I hate to lower the Washington Post into a high school minimum wage job, but that's the exact kind of conduct we were seeing off of this. Oh, do you want... And I can't even think of the dude's name right now. Probably is actually in here. Yeah, David Weigel. Oh, what's more important to you? Do you want to keep David Weigel or do you want to keep me? Well, the Washington Post made their decision. And good on them. This is something that happened off of work grounds, far away from work. It had nothing to do with the work. Now, yes, there's a public aspect to their lives. I disagree with that public aspect, but there is a public aspect to the lives of the celebrities at the Washington Post. And that's what Twitter has promoted them to be, but yeah. You're out of here. So, what's our send-off? How do we do our send-off for people like Felicia Sonmez? Goodbye. I love that I just have that YouTube window up and open. And it's been open for what, 5 months we've been doing that bit? I don't get to use it every day, but it's always right there ready for me. Like an old friend. Alright, now we've got to talk about what I don't want to talk about, because I sat down and watched it last night, but it's important to the news and the culture. And we're going to start with a tweet from one Mark Hamill. I'm so ready for accountability for the violent insurrection against our government and the coup incited by Trump and his minions. Will you be watching the January 6th committee? Isn't that the position that Luke was sitting in when Disney killed him off for how did Luke Skywalker die again? Oh yeah, thinking too hard. I'm not saying I'd be cheerleading for that right now, but I can't say that I'd be sorry about it either. How do you explain this to me? How do you make your entire career typecast as one single character? I mean, he's had other small roles throughout history. I think he was the voice of the Joker for all the animated Batmans for a while. But how do you make your career being typecast as one character for the entirety of your career almost, who is a rebel hoping to bring liberty to an entire galaxy? And then growing up like this and cheerleading for the Empire. How do you get from point A to point B? Alright, from ABC 7 Eyewitness News, Capitol Riot Panel blames former President Trump for January 6th attempted coup. From the Dissociated Press's Lisa Mascaro, Mary Clark, Jelinek, and Farnoosh Amari. The House panel investigating the January 6th selfie fest at the U.S. Capitol laid the blame firmly on Trump last night, saying the assault was hardly spontaneous but an attempted coup and a direct result of the defeated president's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. With a never-before-seen 12-minute video of the extremist groups leading the deadly siege, selectively edited, I might add. I know they love to throw that word around for Veritas. Leading the deadly siege and startling testimony from Trump's innermost circle, the 1-6 committee provided gripping detail in contending that Trump's repeated lies about the election fraud and his public effort to stop Joe Biden's victory led to the attack that imperiled American democracy. Oh my God. Just the wording that they do with this. Look at you, to borrow a phrase from one of my friends. Democracy remained in danger, said Rep. Benny Thompson of Mississippi, chairman of the panel, during the hearing, timed for prime time to reach as many Americans as possible. Don't look. Don't watch. You know, I would love to see the numbers for this and see how it did. And we'll be talking about some of the Tucker stuff that went with that too, but just to see how they actually did with the numbers off of this, because it really does seem like not a lot of people cared about this. Yes, the people who were taken in and brainwashed by the left-wing party sat there with their drink, hugging it. Oh my God! The Trumpers are going to come out! They're going to come and get us! But there are fewer and fewer Americans in that club, I've started to notice. When we get to a point, $5.19 per gallon, so much that a Michigan Sheriff's Department has to stop doing in-person patrols. When we see another 8.6% inflation, the jobless claims ticking up during a time when people should be hiring left and right because of tourism season. people don't care about this. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, and this is probably an unpopular opinion that's going to get me kicked off YouTube. But I'm willing to bet that there may be some people out there who, on January 7th of 2021, were again gripping their TV. The authoritarians are going to come. They're going to take over the country. I'm going to be put in a camp for voting for Joe Biden. What do I do? Who are now looking at the receipt when they get done putting gas in their Honda, saying, I don't know, maybe the coup wouldn't have been such a bad thing? January 6th was a culmination of an attempted coup. A brazen attempt, as one writer put it shortly after January 6th, to overthrow the government, Thompson said. The violence was no accident. The hearings may not change Americans' views on the Capitol attack, but the panel's investigation is intended to stand as its public record. Ahead of this fall's midterm elections, and with Trump considering another White House run, the committee's final report aims to account for the most violent attack on the Capitol since 1814. Yes, the most violent attack, where, as Spartan pointed out last night in the chat, none of the paintings were damaged. None of the priceless paintings that can never be replaced had even a scratch on them, where people stayed within the ropes. Testimony showed Thursday how Trump desperately clung to his own false claims of election fraud, beckoning supporters to the Capitol on January 6 when Congress would certify the results, despite those around him insisting Brandon had won the election. In a previously unseen video clip, the panel played a quip from former AG Bill Barr, who testified that he told Trump the claims of rigged election were bullshit. In another, the former president's daughter, Ivanka, testified to the committee that she respected Barr's view that there was no election fraud. I accepted what he said. Yeah, I watched this whole thing last night, and I saw a litany of selectively edited videos meant for primetime. This was meant for primetime. If you told me that J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson put this together and produced this, well, I'd first say where are all the explosions, because there weren't enough explosions for that. But I mean, it's clipped together. They show the people running in, and then of course they put the audio of Trump in the background. These were very peaceful people. During the one clip where some people were swinging crutches and stuff. Instead of putting out the raw footage and letting the people decide for themselves, they have edited this and morphed this to be the most damaging thing they can possibly get it. Because they know if the American people see the actual footage, they're fucked. Watch political analysts break down January 6th Capitol riot hearing. We're not going to watch that. There was an audible gasp in the room when Cheney read the account that said that when Trump was told the Capitol mob was chanting for Vice President Pence to be hanged for refusing to block the election results, Trump responded, "Maybe they were right. He deserves it." Yeah, do I have a recording of that? So, and we've got some more stuff to talk about with this. But again, like I say, I mean, it's just these three articles and these three tweets are all that we have for this. I was expecting this segment to stretch all the way across the top of the screen here. But no, there was a surprising little reaction to this. Because the people don't care. They want to go and buy bread that isn't $5 a loaf. So let's listen to, wow, this kind of goes on to some of the stuff that we were seeing from this here. Tucker Carlson talking about the fact that, Tucker Carlson, if at any time in your life you've ever made fun of totalitarian regimes that broadcast lies into the homes of the population that they can't turn off, take a look at that. That's happening right now.
On the screen, you see 8 boxes. Those are 8 different TV channels taking the Nancy Pelosi feed unfiltered. Now, if at any time in your life you've ever made fun of totalitarian regimes that, broadcast lies into the homes of the population that they can't turn off, take a look at that. That's happening right now. Meanwhile, gas is over $5. Inflation is higher than it's been in the lifetime of most Americans. Violent crime is making cities impossible to live in, and more than 100,000 Americans OD'd on drugs last year. Why isn't there a primetime hearing about any of that? On the screen, you see.
I don't really care for Tucker, but he's got that right up the nose with that one. He really does. While the hearings were going on, I pointed out there was a tweet that I didn't save it either, and I didn't see who had tweeted it, but there was a tweet that I'd seen right as we were getting started that said they were talking about the fact that they had wheeled out the congressional IMAX, the big screen behind the panel, to go back and show the video clips. And the person who responded, I wish I would have taken that tweet down and saved it, but the person who responded said, well, I'm surprised that we haven't all been herded off to our local IMAXs and forced to sit down and watch with our eyes taped open. Because they are trying to pump this into our systems. By the way, at a time when we have on-demand, where if we don't want to see this bullshit, which I didn't really want to see it either, but I did that, and I did the live stream for the audience because I knew it was culturally relevant and politically relevant. But if we don't want to see that, we can go watch, I don't know, what is it the kids watch? We can go watch Friends for the 19th time, or The Office for the 27th time. It's not like this is taking over the entirety of the television like it was in the 90s during the Clinton impeachment. All right, from Politico. First January 6 hearing highlights Barr testimony. The January 6 Selfie Fest Committee's first hearing on Thursday leaned heavily on the deposition of former AG Barr, as the bipartisan panel publicly laid out its case about the events leading up to the 2021 assault on the Capitol. The very first piece of evidence shown during the hearing was a clip of Barr, who called former President Donald Trump's claims of a stolen election bullshit. I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit, Barr said in the clip, and I don't want to be part of it, and that's one of the reasons that went into me deciding to leave when I did. Thursday's primetime hearing is the first in a series to paint a picture of a carefully planned and orchestrated attack on democracy. In his opening statement, Benny Thompson didn't mince words about former President Trump, whom he said spurred the mob of domestic enemies of the Constitution. And by the way, if you speak out against people like Benny Thompson, like I'm doing right now, this is what he thinks of you. You are an enemy. You are a domestic enemy of the American people. When these people tell you who they are, believe them. You can't live in a world where the incumbent admin stays in power based on his view, unsupported by specific evidence that there was fraud in the election, Barr said. He was in on it. CNN. Takeaways from the primetime January 6th hearing that we produced to scare you into thinking the evil Republicans are around the corner. From Jeremy Herb, Marshall Cohen, and Zachary Cohen. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Selfie Fest held its first primetime hearing Thursday evening, detailing the findings of the panel's investigation and playing new video from closed-door depositions of members of former President Trump's team and depicting the violence at the Capitol. Thursday's hearing was the first in a series this month that will highlight the findings of the panel's investigation, which included interviews with more than 1,000 people about how Trump and his team tried to overturn the results of the election on multiple fronts. While many details have been reported by CNN and other media outlets, the committee's hearings will try to tell the story of January 6th to the American people. Here are the key takeaways from the hearing. I.e., this is what you're supposed to be paying attention to, panicking about, and crying about. Visceral footage revives January 6 horrors. Yes, it was selectively edited to scare you as much as possible. Trump didn't want the riot to stop. The committee revealed testimony from the Trump White House officials who said former president did not want the U.S. Capitol attack to stop, angrily resisted his own advisors. Not recorded, of course. He said, she said. In a court of law, that any of this that we heard about that would have been hearsay. Just so you know. And thought his own vice president deserved to be hanged. It also offers a new window into Trump's demeanor during the riot, something the committee was repeatedly suggested would be a key part of their public hearings. He wasn't angry enough. He wasn't frightened enough. Vice Chair Liz Cheney described the testimony from a witness who said Trump was aware of the chance to hang Mike Pence and seemed to approve of them. Proud Boys and Oath Keepers take center stage because they glow in the dark, because they're rolling over, because they're being promised plea deals, and probably brand new lives. Capitol Police officers' gripping testimony that had no cross. Let's see how long this clip is, or how selectively edited this is.
Ms. Edwards, can you give us one memory of that awful day that stands out most vividly in your mind?
I can. That time when
I know
talked
what clip
about
this is.
falling behind MPD's line. I remember because I had been kind of shielded away because I was holding those stairs, so I wasn't able to really see what was going on over here. When I fell behind that line and I can just remember my breath catching in my throat because what I saw was just a war scene. It was something like I had seen out of the movies. I couldn't believe my eyes. There were officers on the ground, they were bleeding, they were throwing up, they had, I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood. I was catching people as they fell. It was carnage. It was chaos. I can't even describe what I saw. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that as a police officer, as a law enforcement officer, I would find myself in the middle of a battle. I'm trained to detain, a couple of subjects and handle a crowd, but I'm not combat trained.
You're not combat trained in D.C., which is one of the most crime-ridden cities in America. And I'm not just talking about the Capitol complex. Trump's team and family turn against him. Staffers fled top GOP Rep. McCarthy's office, but GOP turned back to Trump. Pence called for help, not Trump. Yeah. Again, my biggest problem with this, too, was the fact that, yes, there are accusations out here, and I understand this is not a criminal trial or a grand jury indictment or anything else like that. But if you're going to come out and parade this across the TV screen for everybody to see on a very one-sided attack, why not allow a cross? Let somebody from the Trump team come back and ask questions of these same witnesses that you're parading across the TV. Let's have a cross. Let's ask some questions live that are unscripted. Not the questions that you've been trained by the lawyers in Congress to answer for the last 18 months. All right, what else do we have? NBC has their key takeaways. It's all about Trump, which we knew that going in. One person more than any other set in motion the deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. The committee investigating that riot argued at its first public hearing Thursday, and that person is Trump. He sparked the riot at the Capitol and nearly shredded American democracy in pursuit of power. Oh, are you serious? It was the most dangerous day to democracy in history. Members of the committee set out to explain a multi-layered scheme. Like I said when we were starting off in the introduction of the show yesterday, while we were waiting for them to go live, there are going to be bulletin boards everywhere. There's going to be red yarn as far as the eye can see. I hope you don't want to make anything a red when you live in Washington, D.C., because Joann Fabrics in D.C. is out of red yarn right now. And push pins. The committee rolled out never-before-seen and selectively edited videos of interviews with Trump's inner circle and graphic images of the siege at the Capitol. But behind all the production was a recurring message. Trump did it! Their key takeaways: as rioters stormed the Capitol, Trump was fixated on politics. The committee painted Pence as the unlikely hero. He's the good little GOPer that walks in line and loses gracefully. Trump's appointees worried that he was unfit to govern, threatened to quit. Kushner suggested the White House counsel staff were crybabies. Future hearings will reveal other parts of Trump's plan to stay in power. Dude. For people who make fun of you and I for being a dangerous conspiracy theorist, these people sure have a lot of theories, don't they? And a lot of them involve a conspiracy. That's NBC's takeaways from this. My takeaways from this. A lot of you heard this last night, but a lot of you weren't here last night. My takeaway from this is the fact that this was nothing but a highly produced way to distract the American people from what's really going on in there. And really, honestly, I don't think the American people are buying it. I think that they're starting to look at this and say either, okay, this is full of shit. We don't try criminals like this without a cross-examination. Why are we listening to this shit? Or, as I said earlier, hey, my grocery bill has doubled since last year. Maybe a coup wouldn't have been such a bad thing after all. Alright, what else do we have? Some video. Some more Tucker video. So, one of the big things, one of the big complaints about this from the mainstream media and their little lapdogs over on Twitter, Fox News won't air this because they're complicit. They know that they don't want to admit to the fact that they did this, that they caused this. Now, here's what Tucker has to say about that. I can't believe I'm doing two Tucker clips right in the same episode.
You know, it tells you a lot about the priorities of our ruling class that the rest of us are getting yet another lecture about January 6th tonight from our moral inferiors, no less. An outbreak of mob violence, a forgettably minor outbreak by recent standards that took place more than a year and a half ago, but they've never stopped talking about it. In the meantime, in the 18 months since January 6th, gas prices have doubled. Drug ODs have reached their highest point ever. The U.S. economy is now careening toward a devastating recession at best. And scariest and least noted of all, this country has never in its history been closer to a nuclear war. Yet the other networks cannot be bothered to cover any of that tonight. Instead, they've interrupted their regularly scheduled programming to bring you yet another extended primetime harangue from Nancy Pelosi and Liz Cheney about Donald Trump and QAnon. The whole thing is insulting. In fact, it's deranged, and we're not playing along. This is the only hour on an American news channel that will not be carrying their propaganda live. They are lying, and we are not going to help them do it.
I want to push back on Tucker for this for a little bit, which I don't know. I didn't even realize I was following Tucker. I just looked over there now and like, oh, why is the following thing on there? I never see posts from Tucker himself unless I go into the trending tab. So he doesn't show up on my feed, but for the last little bit when I was following Christensen too, he didn't, but I unfollowed him after, well, you guys all know what happened there. But I'm going to push back on what Tucker's saying. Everything that these people are saying here, because they know how to not perjure themselves. They're lawyers. They know how to lawyer speak around this. Everything that they're saying is technically the truth. Selectively edited to bring back out the message and the fear porn that they want you to have. And truthful enough to make sure that they don't have to go down for perjury. Everything that they say is technically, on a technical term, the truth. And a reply to Hillary Clinton about this whole thing because, well, Hillary Clinton tweets out, "It's pretty simple. We have the right to choose our own leaders. We can't let anyone take that right away from us. You are not my leader. You are a public servant." Or were. You're not anymore, thank God. You were a public servant. You work for the American people. We are your leaders. The people involved in this criminal conspiracy to overturn the will of the American voters, which culminated in the attempted coup of January 6th, must be held accountable. And Politico Player decided to share with us just the horrific part. I was slipping in people's bloods.
My breath catching in my throat because what I saw was just a war scene. It was something like I had seen out of the movies. I couldn't believe my eyes. There were officers on the ground, they were bleeding, they were throwing up, they were, they had, I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood. My breath
just blood everywhere. All right. That's actually all that I have on the select committee itself. I've got a little bit more January 6th stuff, but it's stuff from the other day when we're talking about some of the other side of this from Rolling Stone. Inside the Capitol Cops January 6th blame game. New documents and whistleblower claims described critical intelligence failures ahead of the insurrection. The Selfie Fest. From Nick Schwellenbach and Adam Zagorin. Oh, never mind. Log in. Respond now. Alright, never mind. We're not going to do that one. We'll take it from just the news. Internal Capitol Police review found sweeping intelligence security failures on Pelosi's watch. From John Solomon. Capitol Police compiled a secret after-action review months after the January 6 riots that identified sweeping blunders by the department ranging from delayed deployment of specialized civil disturbance units to the fateful dismantling of an intelligence unit that monitored social media for threats. Identifying 53 areas of failure needing corrective action, the June 4th, 2021 report, obtained by Just the News, produces a far more stark portrait of leadership failures than those offered by Democrat-led investigations, making abundantly clear that the Capitol Police under House Speaker Pelosi were ill-equipped to defend one of America's most symbolic and high-value institutions 2 decades after the September 11th attacks. Specifically, the report stated that some Capitol Police leaders had received intelligence from outside sources like FBI, warning of the strong potential for violence, including the targeting of lawmakers on the day Congress certified the 2020 election. But those warnings were not properly distilled into the operational plan given to frontline commanders or highlighted in the summary section known as the bottom line up front. The assessment for 1-6 contained a BLUF that did not express the severity of the threat or the fact that USCP actually had knowledge of a plan in place, according to the report. Why not? Everybody else did. Once again, and again, I knew this was a setup. From the first time I heard a coworker say, "Oh, they better come back and do the right thing, otherwise we're going to go in there and we're going to show them why they're supposed to do the right thing, okay, motherfucker?" I thankfully don't work with that idiot anymore. But the fact that there was a demonstration that was planned was common knowledge from at least December on. And I would argue that, especially if this was planned down from the top, which it seems more and more to be, like that's one of the things that I noted, especially when I was going through this, is a lot of this does seem to be planned. The little bit of footage that they have coming out of here with the, bike racks, when they can go and erect unclimbable fence in a moment's notice otherwise in DC. Like they did with the St. George riots and like they did with the inauguration and kept up afterwards. Well, like they did for the Supreme Court. The day that the draft decision was leaked, they couldn't have that same unclimbable fence sitting there. No. The assessment for 1-6 contained a BLUF that did not express the severity of the threat or the fact that USCP actually had knowledge of a plan in place, according to the report. The statement that protesters may be armed was included, which they wound up not being, but it was never expressed with the urgency that they had planned to overtake the Capitol and target members of Congress. Instead of clear warnings to its forces, Capitol Police leaders put out a generic, all-encompassing quote in the operational plan that was too vague to convey the true threat level, the report said. And again, we can sit here forever and ever and look in hindsight and say, we should have done this, we should have done that. Hell, we've been doing it with September 11th for 21 years. We should have seen this. We should have seen that. We should have saw this coming. But realistically, going across social media, the only answer that I have for this is that you wanted this to happen. So that's what we see for that. On the other side, Bannon subpoenas Pelosi and House January 6 committee members to fight contempt charges. From Sarah Murray. So, hey, we might get across. And I don't care for Steve Bannon, but if he gets us a cross-examination of this, then let's do this. From CNN, Steve Bannon, set to go to trial next month for defying a congressional subpoena, has subpoenaed House Speaker Pelosi and members of the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Selfie Fest as he builds his defense. Bannon, a conservative firebrand who previously served as former President Trump's chief strategist and senior counselor, was charged with 2 counts of contempt of Congress in November 2021 after refusing to testify and produce documents. He has pleaded not guilty. Last week, Bannon's legal team subpoenaed the 16 lawmakers and congressional staffers to testify at the July trial and produce documents, according to one of Bannon's attorneys, and copies of the subpoenas provided to CNN. These subpoenas were aimed at all 9 members of the Select Committee, 3 committee staffers and general counsel for the House of Representatives, Douglas Letter. Bannon also subpoenaed House Democratic leadership, including Pelosi, Hoyer, and Clyburn. A spokesman for the House committee declined to comment. Spokespeople for Pelosi, Hoyer, and Clyburn did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Historically, it's been a challenge to compel members of Congress to testify because their legislative activity is protected under the Constitution's Speech and Debate Clause. So, we don't know if this is going to happen or not, but it would be kind of funny to see Congress deny a subpoena in a trial over denying a subpoena. All right, let's talk about what's happening in the rest of the country about this. The FBI has been busy. FBI raids home of Michigan GOP gubernatorial candidate and Whitmer challenger and takes him into custody, according to a report. So we are going to use the DOJ to go after our political enemies. From Zach Jewell. Oops, hiccups. The FBI raided the home of Michigan Republican gubernatorial candidate Ryan Kelly Thursday morning and reportedly took him into custody. As all the movie producers and all the video producers for CNN start suddenly scribbling out the campaign ads that show Ryan Kelly being let out of his house on camera. Video reviewed by the news outlet Bridge, Michigan, showed a man resembling Kelly being taken into a gray SUV, according to a report. But of course, we don't have that video. Chris Kelly, a relative and campaign treasurer for the Kelly campaign, said he was aware of the Thursday morning law enforcement raid, but declined further comment, Bridge News reported. David Eggert of Crane's Detroit Business also reported that Kelly had been arrested at his home. Bridge News reporter Jonathan Oosting provided an update to the reported raid and arrest. Ryan Kelly is facing multiple charges related to January 6, 2021. He has admitted that he was at the riots, but claims he did not go inside the U.S. Capitol. No, I'm willing to bet this is all for show and to keep him off the campaign trail. Kelly is one of the 5 GOP candidates who qualified for the August primary ballot. The real estate agent has organized protests against Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer's strict pinko pox lockdowns in 2020 and was present at the January 6th Selfie Fest. During the events of January 6th, video footage allegedly shows Kelly encouraging protesters as they entered the Capitol building. According to Bridge News, the video footage also reportedly showed Republican candidates climbing on scaffolding outside the building as groups of rioters breached the Capitol. Kelly has denied ever entering the building. A spokesperson for Kelly told the Daily Wire that she has no further information. Once again, if you have this information and all this fancy facial recognition technology that they say that we can never escape from, why did you wait until after he was on a ballot fighting one of your chosen elites? I smell fuckery among here. FBI arrests Michigan gubernatorial candidate on charges related to involvement in the January 6th Selfie Fest. From Holmes Lybrand and Hannah Rabinovich. I'm curious.
We've learned the FBI has now arrested a Republican candidate for Michigan governor, for his alleged involvement in that Capitol attack. And Ryan Kelly is now facing misdemeanor charges. CNN's Caitlin Polans has this reporting for us. What are you learning, Caitlin?
That's right. So new charges against a Republican politician in Michigan. Ryan Kelly is facing 4 counts, essentially for moving with this aggressive crowd of rioters past the police line on January 6th and into this restricted area outside the Capitol building. Kelly has been running for governor in a crowded field of Republicans, and the primary in Michigan is not until this August, but he has really built this far-right political persona because he's been very vocal about COVID restrictions and about opposing the Democratic governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who is running for re-election. So in this new criminal case against Kelly in federal court, the investigators have made clear that they have known about him and him being at the Capitol potentially for more than a year. Tips were coming in about Kelly being part of the riot last January, and there's been video out there of him climbing under scaffolding, waving on people in the crowd. And the FBI does note that they were able to identify Kelly partly because he's been so prominent politically. In court, they're saying now that they have compared images of Kelly to appearances he made at both American Patriot rallies in Lansing and in his hometown in 2020, and also at a Stop the Steal rally just after the 2020 election at the Michigan State House. At those rallies, investigators say he was wearing some of the same clothing he wore on January 6th, so a black coat and a black baseball cap backwards. So Kelly previously said he did not go inside the Capitol building on January 6th, and he'll be in court for the first time today. But stepping back on this arrest makes clear that the Justice Department is still hard at work bringing new cases against people in the riot. The Justice Department has charged more than 800 defendants by now, and they are still looking to identify hundreds more.
The Justice Department is in the process, is in the major process of making sure that they go after their political enemies.
Representative Debbie Last.
Shut up, you. Kelly was released on bond later Thursday after making his initial appearance in federal courts in Michigan. He greeted his supporters outside the courthouse after his release, giving thumbs up and hugs, according to the local reporter on the scene. The Detroit FBI field office confirmed Kelly's arrest and said his home had been searched on Thursday morning. I can confirm FBI agents from Grand Rapids office executed an arrest and search warrant at Mr. Kelly's residence in Allendale, Michigan. At this time, I cannot provide any information on the nature of the charges against Mr. Kelly, said Mara Schneider, the public affairs officer with the FBI Detroit's office. In a written statement, she added she expected additional information to be forthcoming. Yeah, I wonder how many of that was campaign secrets that can get turned over to the Whitmer campaign. I wonder. ABC. We're going to skip this one because we've got a lot to go over yet. We still got to do live chat because you guys are the most important part of this program. So I want to see what you guys have to say. And this looks to be a review of everything else. Betsy DeVos got in the news. You know, the single-handed demon of the left. Betsy DeVos says she resigned after learning Pence would not support invoking the 25th Amendment to remove Trump in the wake of the Capitol Selfie Fest. From Omar Sadiq. In the wake of the January 6th Selfie Fest, Education Secretary DeVos said she resigned from her cabinet after she learned that Vice President Pence wouldn't support invoking the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office. I spoke with the Vice President and just let him know that I was there to do whatever he wanted and needed me to do or help with, and he made it very clear that he was not going to go in that direction or path. DeVos told the USA Today columnist Ingrid Jacks after her first public interview about her decision to step down on January 7th, 2021. Well, Betsy, you can do this all you want. They're still not going to like you. From NBC4 out of Washington, moving off of the January 6th Selfie Fest, and moving on to the guns thing, because we've got some stuff to talk about there for sure. 3 killed, 1 hurt. At shooting in Maryland manufacturing plant, trooper injured in shootout. From Gina Cook and Carissa DeMargo. 3 men died and another was wounded when a gunman opened fire at the manufacturing facility where he worked in western Maryland Thursday afternoon. A state trooper was injured in a shootout with the suspect. Mark Allen Fry, 50, Charles Edward Minnick, 31, and Joshua Robert Wallace, 30, were all killed in the shooting at Columbia Machine Incorporated on Bickle Road in Smithsburg. The Washington County Sheriff's Office said a 42-year-old man was critically injured and remains hospitalized. A short time after the shooting, about 5 or so miles south of the plant, a Maryland state trooper got into a shootout with the suspect on Mapleville Road, the sheriff's office said. The trooper suffered a minor injury and was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The trooper has been treated and released. The suspect was also injured and taken to a hospital. The shooter, who authorities say is a 23-year-old man from West Virginia, remains hospitalized late on Thursday. He has not yet been charged. He used a semi-automatic handgun used to carry out the attack. Oh, so this one's going away. Handgun! According to the sheriff's office, the suspect's motive for the shooting is still unclear. So, I saw this and I thought that, okay, we're going to go see another big semi-automatic rifle. And I know they tried to sneak semi-automatic in there to try to get the panic back off of this, but really, realistically, this is not the kind of gun that they want, because if they go after handgun crime, they have to go after people who reliably vote for them on the inner city. Thomas Massey tweets, "If Democrats have their way, we will live in a world where 18, 19, and 20-year-olds can be drafted to defend their country, but cannot legally acquire the means to defend themselves or their families. This is immoral and unconstitutional." Did I put the tweet up here? I didn't. I just put one in the funny paper in the Discord, a meme that says that, yeah, it's the same thing. 18, 19, and 20-year-olds can enter into a contract, they can get married, they can file for taxes and move out and purchase a home if they've got the credit line to do so and pay property taxes. But they cannot drink alcohol, buy tobacco, or buy a firearm. The only thing that 18, 19, and 20-year-olds are allowed to do are things that propagate the state. Think about that for a little bit. But House Democrats quote tweeted this and said, "Semi-automatic rifles are weapons of war. Refusing to act and save lives in this moment is an immoral abandonment of your constitutional duty." You might want to go and read that Second Amendment once again if you want to talk about constitutional duty. But as far as constitutional duty goes, another House bill that's going nowhere. House approves red flag gun bill unlikely to pass Senate. From Kevin Freaking. This freaking guy, seriously. The House approved a red flag bill Thursday that would allow families, police, and others to ask federal courts to order the removal of firearms from people at extreme risk of harming themselves or others. It's the Democrat-controlled chamber's latest response to the U.S. mass shootings and likely stands little chance in the Senate. Because it's unconstitutional. Because not only is it an infringement of your right to keep and bear arms and be a part of the well-regulated militia, but it also violates the Fourth and Fifth Amendments. "19 states and D.C. currently have such red flag laws. Under the House bill, a judge could issue an order to temporarily remove and store the firearms until a hearing can be held up to 2 weeks later to determine whether the firearm should be returned or kept for a specific period. The bill passed on a mostly party line vote of 224 to 202. "We are painfully aware that we cannot do enough to save every life, and there is no one answer that will solve this problem," said Jerry Nadler, the Democratic chairman of Wearing Your Belt Up to Your Nipples. "But we do not know that taking guns out of the hands of people who pose a danger to themselves or others would save countless lives." The vote came after an emotional week that saw congressional testimony from victims of the recent mass shootings in Uvalde and Buffalo, and came ahead of a planned march Saturday in Washington by groups advocating for stronger gun controls. On Wednesday, the House passed a wide-ranging gun control bill that would raise the age limit for purchasing semi-automatic rifle and prohibit the sale of ammunition. Magazines with a capacity of more than 15 rounds, it too has virtually no chance in the Senate. House Republicans criticized the red flag bill as giving the federal government the ability to take law-abiding persons' guns without them having the ability to contest it beforehand. It would allow the courts to take guns away from people without notice and without even the right to appear in the hearing to defend themselves in court, said Mike Johnson of Louisiana. The Congressional Budget Office projects that the bill would lead to roughly 10,000 emergency petitions being filed annually within the courts. No, that's how many would be being filed daily. My Republican uncle likes to talk at Thanksgiving about how bad Democrats are and how bad the right to choose is. I'm going to file a petition to have his guns taken away. That'll show him. The bill would also create a grant program at the U.S. Department of Justice to encourage states to adopt red flag laws and support the 19 states that have already implemented them. So they're going to take your money, because that's all the government has to make a grant with, and give it away to people who do their bidding, like good little boys and girls. Five Republicans voted for the bill: Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Anthony Gonzalez of Ohio, Chris Jacobs of New York, Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, surprise, surprise, and Fred Upton of Michigan. Only Fitzpatrick is seeking re-election. Jared Golden of Maine was the only Democratic member to vote no. The lead sponsors of the bill were Salud Carbajal of California, Lucy Macbeth of Georgia, whose son Jordan Davis was slain at Jacksonville, Florida gas station in 2012 by a white man angry over the loud music the black teenager and his friends had been playing in their car. Five Republicans, one Democrat. Yeah, we just reviewed that, so let's skip that one here. All right, let's shift gears here. Let's go talk about this. By the way, I have not been able to confirm it because I haven't read the bill yet. But there is talk about the fact that one of these two bills will make it illegal to take your gun apart to clean it. Possibly under the assumption that if you're taking it apart, you're doing so to modify it. But only a gunsmith, a licensed gunsmith, could take your gun apart to clean it. Cannot confirm, but that's the rumor that I've seen thus far. Jack Posobiec tweets out, "Hi Simon Gwynn, why did you delete this?" With a screenshot of deleted tweets from Simon Gwynn. Interesting real-life trolley problem in America now. If you had the chance to kill Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, the two oldest right-wing Supreme Court judges, should you do it while Biden can get his nominees to replace them confirmed? It's an interesting, it's an abstract question, but it becomes a real conundrum if, say, you're terminally ill and have little to lose yourself, but know that it could save many women's lives in the futures. What are the dates on this? 5/3/2022. And now yesterday, after what we saw yesterday, he deleted these tweets. I wonder why. Could it be possible that he might be scared of culpability? Seven's Trick says, why did you repost it? Well, because maybe the FBI would like to know about the fact that somebody had talked about killing Supreme Court justices. Here's Nancy Pelosi after blocking the bill to add extra protection to the Supreme Court justices, which, by the way, I'm going to move on that just a little bit in dissent from our more right-wing people, because I actually tend to agree with Pelosi on this one. Even though I'm sure that she would, in a second, grab the fountain pen and sign Nancy R. Pelosi if this was a bill to protect more, to add additional security to Congress. I don't like the idea of making our government more untouchable by the people. I really don't. And this sets a series of things into motion that will lead to a permanent fence, a permanent wall around Congress that nobody can get into unless they get elected in. I don't like that. I don't like that. That's the people's house, and that is going down a direction I don't think this country needs to go. Real Mac report, though. Let's listen.
How can you say that the justices are protected when there was an attempt on Justice Kavanaugh's life? You said the justices are protected, but there was an attempt on Justice Kavanaugh's life. How?
This issue is not about the justices. It's about staff and the rest. The justices are protected. You saw the Attorney General even double down on that.
But this is about security for the justices. An armed man showed up near Justice Kavanaugh's house to try to...
We're working together on the bill that the Senate will be able to approve of, because that's what we can pass whatever we want here. We want it to be able to pass the Senate. So I don't know what you're talking about, because evidently you haven't seen what the debate is. And not debate, but what the language is. There will be a bill, but nobody is in danger over the weekend because of our not having a bill.
How can you say that the justices are protected?
And with all the money that we are paying these justices and all the lobbying money that they're getting, they can afford private security. But it is telling to me that she did block this when wasn't it unanimous consent in the Senate for this bill? From ABC 7 Eyewitness out of Los Angeles, California. FBI raids Simi Valley home of man accused of trying to kill Justice Brett Kavanaugh. New video shows FBI agents overnight raiding the home of a man charged with trying to kill U.S. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Nicholas Roski is now in custody of federal authorities. Agents were seen carrying boxes out of his Simi Valley home overnight. Officials say that he showed up at Kavanaugh's Maryland home Wednesday with a gun, knife, zip ties, and other items. He then called police and told them he intended to break into Kavanaugh's home and kill him. Roski was reportedly dressed in black when he arrived at the home by taxi just after 1 a.m. When he got out of the taxi, Roski was spotted by 2 U.S. Marshals who were part of the round-the-clock security provided the justice following the leak of the draft opinion last month. They then took Roski into custody. As to a motive, Roski told police that he was upset by the leaked draft opinion to overturn Roe v. Wade and the school massacre in Uvalde, Texas. Roski's neighbors reacted to the news of his arrest. "I'm glad this happened way over there and nobody was hurt, and everything just came out okay and got him into custody," a neighbor told Eyewitness News on Wednesday. "I just pray for the outcome and Roski's family because they're going through a lot right now." So, again, the question is this destroying evidence, or are they actually going to use this in some sort of trial? From the Washington Post. Oh, it's after 9 already. Guess we got to figure out where we're going to and wrap some of this up. I know there are a couple more that I want to get to yet today, so. Supreme Court shields Border Patrol agent from excessive force claim. From Ann E. Marimau. Not Felicia Sanmez, oddly enough. Oh, wait. A divided Supreme Court on Wednesday sided with a Border Patrol agent accused of using excessive force during a confrontation, an outcome that will further limit lawsuits against law enforcement officials accused of constitutional violations. In a 6-3 decision, the court's conservative majority reinforced protections for government officials who are generally immune from all civil lawsuits when it's determined that they have acted in good faith while carrying out their duties. Qualified immunity, isn't it grand? Clarence Thomas, writing for the majority, said that in rare instances, such claims had been allowed to proceed without explicit authorization from Congress, and that the court should not second-guess lawmakers responsible for deciding when individuals can seek damages for constitutional violations. Because their cases have made clear that, in all but the most unusual circumstances, prescribing a cause of action is a job for Congress, not the courts, we reverse, wrote Thomas, who was joined by John Roberts and Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. Neil Gorsuch wrote separately, agreeing with the judgment. In dissent, the court's 3 liberal justices say they would have allowed the Washington State man's lawsuit to proceed against the federal agent. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote that the court had the absolutely immunized from liability thousands of Border Patrol agents, no matter how egregious the misconduct or resultant injury. So, I agree with this, and I disagree with this. The case was brought in 2017 by Robert Boulay, who owned a Smuggler's Inn, a bed and breakfast located in Washington state along the Canadian border. Boulay had a complicated relationship with federal agents. According to the court's opinion, he sometimes served as a paid confidential informant, helping agents identify people crossing the border illegally near his property. He also provided lodging and shuttle services to those crossing illegally, driving a black SUV with a license plate Smuggler. Agents had seized from the inn shipments of illegal drugs, and the opinion states, Boulay was recently convicted in the Canadian court on human trafficking charges. Boulay sued a Border Patrol agent whom he accused of unlawfully entering his property and shoving and pushing him to the ground during a 2014 encounter involving a guest of Boulay's from Turkey. The agent, Eric Egbert, checked the guest's immigration papers, which were up to date, and the guest unlawfully crossed the border into Canada. That evening, the court's opinion states, Boulay alleged the agent violated his constitutional rights by using excessive force and retaliating against Boulay for complaining to the agent's superiors. So, and this is part of the reason that I don't like this. I agree, actually, with what the majority said about the jurisdiction. This is a legislative matter. This is not a courts matter. And Congress needs to get off its ass and make a law that says, yes. Actually, no, they shouldn't even have to make a law. It should be apparent that you should be able to sue the state. I take that back. I disagree with them. Now that I've worded this back out in my mind, I disagree with this. The ability to sue the state when they're doing something wrong, to take a retaliatory action against the state, should be automatic. So I disagree with them on top of this. It should be automatic. You should be able to sue the state. The Supreme Court shouldn't be able to say, hey, no, you can't sue them because of qualified immunity. And from what I understand, a part of this was because of the proximity to the border. But the right against unlawful search and seizure doesn't end 10 miles from the border either. If they went in and they stormed without a warrant and took excessive force against a person, then no, they are absolutely culpable and they violated the Constitution. Even if, and this goes down to the southern border as well, if they're busting in a house that could suspectedly be owned and occupied by entirely illegal immigrants. You don't know that unless you have the warrant and go in. That could be full of American citizens. You would still need a warrant to get in. So no, I disagree with this wholeheartedly. You should be able to sue the government. I was going to say, when I first agreed with this, I was going to say, no, this should be a legislative thing. But then, as soon as the words came out of my mouth, I realized that no, this should be an automatic thing. They shouldn't need to make a law that says, yes, you can sue. when I was first reading this, all I could think of was separation of powers. All right. What else do we want to get to? This was funny. So, Anissa Walker, Madwoman Media, who's been on Across the Board, I think, once, and I believe she's been on, wasn't she on Eddsworld one time, too? Yeah, she was. Tweeted this out. Notice the wording in the tweet. See how they call the Biden sticker disinformation, but the replacement theory is not, and this guy got his shit shoved in over this one. So, Elevate the Conversation tweets out, street artists are fighting back against the I did that gas pump disinformation stickers with stickers of their own, and they are brilliant. With a sticker here that says, Joe Biden made the gas expensive. My God, the left cannot meme. But he doubles down. Elevate the Conversation, as a reply, tweets out, one of our readers shared the strategy for dealing with gas pump disinfo stickers, as he's advocating for a gas pump disinfo sticker, by the way. Live in Texas. See one of the stickers. Call it into the Railroad Commission of Texas. Get a reward for reporting vandalism. Right-wing scrouts are literally paying for my gas. No, they're not. That's false. That's absolutely false. You're not getting enough of a reward over a sticker to pay for your own gas. Not at these prices. But in true fashion, and I got a reply off of this here, because if this is true, Zayna Swarm replying says, hey, thanks for the tip. There goes like 91% of the rainbow vandalism in my town. Which I replied to, I might have to take a tour of Texas here in June, but this dude also replied to this tweet. So let's open this one back up. Elevate the Conversation then turns out and says, vandalism is when you punch down, not when rainbows. And I couldn't help it, but I had to go back and reply to that. It says, vandalism is only things I don't like. Praying for Holies coming in right at the tail end with the sticker party. From the Blaze, Bernie Sanders says the GOP has a good shot at winning the House and potentially the Senate. The enthusiasm level within the Democratic Party base is extremely low right now. We must take some of the enthusiasm. We have to seize that enthusiasm from the evil MAGA people and redistribute it out to the... Wait, it doesn't work like that? From Alex Nitzberg, Bernie Sanders has said that the GOP has a good shot of snagging control of the House, potentially even the Senate during the upcoming midterm. You really can't win an election with bumper sticker that says, well, we can't do much, but the other side is worse, the lawmaker said, according to Politico. And really, that's the big complaint that I've been having about the Democrat Party. Since the campaign started for 2020, is that they don't have anything. They're not telling you anything that they're going to do. Their entire campaign right now is, vote for me. I'm not the other guy. And it is falling on deaf ears. How are you going to make things better? Well, I'm going to get Marjorie Taylor Greene out of office. I'm going to get Greg Abbott out of office. I'm going to get Ron DeSantis out of office. Okay, then what are you going to do? The Republicans stand an excellent chance of gaining control of the House and quite possibly the Senate, he said. Sanders, a socialist who caucuses with Democrats, noted that the enthusiasm level within the Democrat base is extremely low, And it's not working class support that's fading away, the senator said. Unless we turn around, the voter turnout is going to be very, very low on the Democratic base. Say to the American people, look, we don't have the votes to do it right now. We have two corporate Democrats who are not going to be with us, Sanders said. The leadership has got to go out and say, we don't have the votes to pass anything significant right now. Sorry, you got 48 votes, and we need more to pass it. That should be the message of this campaign. Two corporate Democrats, Senators Manchin and Sinema, sabotaged Build Back Better. And it's been downhill ever since for the Democratic Party, Sanders said, according to the outlet. Politico reported that Joe Manchin of West Virginia said in a statement, I've never berated Senator Sanders for his socialist views. It's a shame he refuses to accept the more moderate views I share with my constituents. Democratic candidates could face serious headwinds during the 2022 cycle if Americans continue to get hammered with high inflation and skyrocketing prices. As of Thursday, the AAA national average price for a gallon of gas is $4.97, which means that it's higher in places. Let's see. I think we might be done. Oh, I want to do this one. Also from The Blaze. Mother gets weird feeling, checks live video of her son's preschool classroom and then catches teachers abusing students ages 2 and 3. 2 preschool teachers were arrested and charged with cruelty to children after a mother of a student in Roswell, Georgia, a preschool classroom, caught the teachers on video, a live video allegedly abusing other students. Gloria Barkey told WXIA-TV that she picked up her phone last Thursday to check on her son using the live video feed inside the Parker Chase preschool classroom. I just told my husband, I said, I got a weird feeling. I got to check on our son. Barkey recalled to the station. Called her mother's intuition, I said. I just want to see if he's okay. So I picked up the phone, I pulled up the app, and I picked it up right where the lead teacher was assaulting the first victim. WXIA says the video shows students ages 2 and 3 sitting on a rug when one teacher approaches a student, kneels, and gets right in the student's face. A second teacher then walks up from behind, steps on another child's hand, and uses her knee to shove the back of the student, who is face to face with the teacher. The first teacher then uses her index finger to tap the forehead of the first child. WXIA says Barkey and her husband, Brant Duncan, raced to the preschool, checked on their son, to demand to see the entire video of what they'd just seen live, and then viewed it. It was intentional, it was thought out, it was malicious, Barkey told the station. These are defenseless little kids. The parents told WXIA, school administrators, didn't seem to believe it. It almost came across as defensive, not believing that it really happened. They had no policies in place. There was no, if this happens, these are the procedures we go by, to the point that I had to demand that teachers be removed from classrooms, Duncan told the station, and we would not leave until they were removed. The director looked at me and even questioned, so you want me to remove them? And I said, you better believe it, remove them now. Hate to say that. And I know that it wasn't their kids, so the parental instinct didn't kick in off there. But if it was my kids and I had seen that, the director wouldn't be removing the teachers. I would be. Duncan and Barkey also called police, and detectives watched the video and later arrested Zaina Alastwani, 40, and Soriana Brasino, 19, for cruelty to children in the first degree, WSB-TV reported. Let me see if what this is.
Children, parents watched it happen live on a classroom feed. Now, John Shurik, he spoke with one of the parents who tells us they picked up the phone to check on their 3-year-old son and they saw this.
And I just told my husband, I said, I've got a weird feeling, I've got to check on our son. The minute I picked it up, the lead teacher was assaulting the first victim. It was thought out, it was malicious.
Gloria Bargy and Brant Duncan immediately raced to their son's preschool, Parker Chase Preschool in Roswell, and demanded to see the entire video of what they'd just seen live. And they saw one teacher leaning into the faces of two preschoolers. A second teacher walks up from behind and steps on one child's hand. Moments later, she kicks another child in the back with her knee. And the first teacher, apparently yelling at the children, gets up, then taps one of them on the forehead and walks away.
I think as a mom, your job is to protect your child. And there's a guilt that I put him in that environment every day. Sorry.
We entrusted in their staff to protect and watch over our children, and they're evil. They're evil.
Roswell police arrested the two teachers, Zaina Alistwani and Soriana Boraseno, and charged them with cruelty to children in the first degree. Now investigators are reviewing hours of classroom video to see if those teachers or any other teachers might have assaulted additional students. The Parker Chase Preschool's parent company wrote in an email, "We were shocked and disappointed that teachers used inappropriate disciplinary actions with children." Duncan and Bargy say they're trying to get the word out to other parents who have children at that preschool.
For people to know and for the people that were involved to be held accountable.
Yeah. And you see, once again, I reiterate that if I had seen that, especially if it was my kid, that teacher would be being removed from the classroom by me. I'd go to jail for that. For what I would do to that teacher, I would go to jail for that. Gladly, to protect my own children. All right. That's it. That's all that, that's all we can get to today, because it's 9:22. So today is Friday, which means that we will be checking in with some of the live chat here. I've said from the beginning, and you guys are helping to grow the show. We are almost double digits consistently every day now, which is good. It's great. Our next goal, of course, is to get to 20 consistently, which we've brushed. We haven't hit 20 viewers on an episode of Contemporary yet, but we've brushed against it. We've got to 19 before. So our next goal is to get to 20 viewers and then try to hold that consistently every day, 20. But we're consistently every day seeing 10 people coming in here. Ron Helton says, rain, rain, rain. And yeah, it's kind of looking like it's going to rain out there. So I've got some stuff stored outside at work. I hope it holds off until I get to work. Let's go through Ron's stuff here, and then we'll see if we've got to come back and check back in here. Ron's like, yeah, I missed it. The stream last night. Caught the tail end when you raided another Twitch account. Who did I even raid? I don't remember. Oh, Skeletora. That's who we raided. Let's throw some music up while we're doing this, huh? All right. Let's see. So this past week, on Monday, when we had, again, a relatively busy week, we're almost getting down to the point of filling a notebook again. So, on Monday, we had Quest Fanning Horatius was here, Ron Helton, Arvolt, Harvey McLeod, Blind Fear, A. Gaines P., Paul Jones, and RYYY87, who I believe was one of our detractors. On Tuesday, Quest Fanning, Horatius, Arvolt, Job for 9, Vampire Hunter D, Chilaga 1984. Luke Wee was here, MK Ultra, and Ron Helton, MK Ultra Mega, I should say. Wednesday, Quest Fanning, Ron Helton, Goats and Scarves, MK Ultra, Chilaga 1984, Arvolt 24, and Biret 4412. Yesterday gave us Quest Fanning, Ron Helton, Arvolt, Ben Wild, Legit Sniper Killer, who apparently gets turned on by Tim Pool. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention yesterday because I didn't see it until after, but I also wanted to mention that this whole thing with swatting is hitting a little bit close to home because apparently they turned around and they got the quartering too. Which it's common knowledge. I'm not doxing him when I say this, but he lives in Sussex, which is probably about an hour in that direction from here. Like, I know people that live in that city. I don't know Jeremy himself, but listening to the way that he talks and his voice, I actually am pretty positive that I know somebody who's related to Jeremy. But I don't know Jeremy himself. I've never met him. At one point, actually, I gotta call Alex and ask him if he knows Jeremy. Because they talk like exactly the same. The voice, the mannerism, the pace, the tone, the tenor. They talk exactly identically. Should find that out. I'm not going to use that to meet Jeremy, obviously, because that's not how I... Like, if I ever meet the quartering, I want it to be because he saw my stuff and he wants to talk to me or be on Eddsworld or something or across the board. I want it to be by merit, not by the matter of the fact that I know a guy. Alright, who else did we have here? 80s Kid, Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru, Chilaga 1984, and MK Ultra Mega. Today, let's see what some of the stuff was going on. We've read the first ones from Ron Helton already. Ron Helton says, the January 6th hearings are a clown show. How are people traveling more? Fuel costs are double now. It's $4.99 here this morning. There are people that don't care. That's the thing. Yes, I understand the fact that the fuel costs are insane, but there are people that do not care. They just know that they need to go out and have all the memories. And they'll worry about the finances later. My roommate, when I lived in Kenosha was like that. She worked a minimum wage job, but apparently her parents were supporting her too. Well into her 20s. Because she was the same age as I was. My parents did help me out with a couple of car loans at the time, but they didn't help me out like sending me on trips and stuff like that. Ron, at these fuel prices, 2 miles is too damn far to drive. This is going to be ugly. Owen Joyer says, Viva Cuba! I would rather not live in Cuba. Thank you very much. Ron Helton, I live in an energy-rich state. How are these fuel prices still rising? This is nuts. Domestic disputes managed by phone. This is crazy. Yes, for those of you who missed it off the top, I was talking about an article in which there's a Michigan Sheriff's Department that is actually cutting in-person visits and responses because they're out of fuel budget. They're out of money for fuel. And the joke was that there's probably the domestic dispute that's going to be out there. The wife is in there screaming on the phone, "Help! My husband's beating me! He's beating me up! Help!" And the deputy's just looking at it saying, "Okay, put him on the phone." Oh, excuse me. Job from 9 is here. Good morning, everyone. Spartan thinks it's feasible to ban cars. Right, they want automated cars so no patriot can use them in a protest. Heather Heyer style. Right, so they can shut them down remotely. Yes, Life to the Max pointing out that this is the 600th episode. 600 of them in the books, by the way. Thank you, Life to the Max, for that. Spartan, Global Weimar Republic, inflation and moral degeneracy. Their solution to inflation is drag shows for kids. Well, I mean, they're stuffing the dollars, so they're outspending the money. It's got velocity, right? And war with Russia. War is always the best deflection from internal problems. KTZed is here, popping in to say hello. Meeting starting. Thank you, KTZed. Yeah, life to the max. Or even middle school conduct, talking about Felicia Sanmez. JT says, clown, circus, monkey, 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 sums up the J6 committee. And Susan, just for the record, we're not talking about Benny Thompson with that meme. Just for the record, Susan. 80s kid, remember the fiery but mostly peaceful riots. Nothing to see here, but January 6th. Oh my god, evil. Yeah, I'll never forget. And again, as a Kenosha resident, I will never forget seeing Cars Wars 2, which was less than a mile from where I used to live, in flames with a CNN reporter standing in front of it saying, well, this is a mostly peaceful protest. Spartan says nothing will happen to Trump because this is all a show. Oh, looks like we're having some connection issues here. Ben Wild is here. Gripping testimony. Danger to democracy. Just look at you. Spartan says the real story should be the torture of some of those arrested. Absolutely. 80s Kid says the biggest danger to America since the Civil War is Brandon. Life to the Max says if people knew gas and inflation was going to be like this, there would have been way more people at the Selfie Fest. Yeah, Instagram would have been inundated. Spartan says the biggest danger are the money printers, the Federal Reserve, and the people with real power. JT says it's kind of cliche, but dang it, we paid for all of DC. Fair. Spartan says conspiracy equals reality, and then Jared Kushner was the actual president during Trump. '80s Kid says, I agree with you, Spartan, but the elites are a danger to humanity. I was joking. I meant Brandon and his dirt for brains are a danger. And yeah, Spartan says you could be correct as far as Brandon started war with a nuclear power. The nuclear power. Spartan, don't you, or didn't you at one point live in Europe? I thought that came up at some point. They call Putin Hitler, but calling Biden Hitler would be more correct as he is the one that attacked Russia. 80s Kid, Ed watched the January 6th shit show, so you don't have to. '80s Kid, come on, woman, bring the tears. Work it, girl. Quest Fanning is here. Spartan, arms ripped off, legs ripped off. She was slipping and sliding in blood and guts. It was worse than Vietnam. '80s Kid, that woman said there was blood everywhere. Whose blood? Ashley Babbitt? Biden restored our democracy by sending long-range missiles to Ukraine to attack Russia with. '80s Kid says, in 2020, the people chose Trump, Hillary, the elites, big tech, lamestream media, and the dead people chose Brandon. Except nothing bad happened in the 2020 election. Freest and fairest and most popular election in history, honk honk. Very odd there's no footage of drunk Pelosi's husband being arrested. Joffre9 gave us an update on the report. Dow is down 600. I am not surprised with an 8.6% inflation. The Kavanaugh threat was soon forgot. No lamestream coverage. Tumbleweed. Spartan is going to start a militia and called it well-regulated militia. It is necessary for a free state. Ron Helton says, remember when that one family called the cops because their elderly female family member had a pistol, they couldn't get her to give it up. The cop showed up and shot her dead. Yeah, this law is going to get bloody. Yeah, I was just going to make... Quest says, I was going to make a comment about gun disassembly. That makes guns dangerous in and of itself. Yes, it does. You are correct. Apparently, Ron was an FFL dealer and a part-time gunsmith. Cleaning a firearm is not that complicated. Everyone should know how to clean their own tools. Ron, I can't do that one. Just FYI, the Dow is heading towards 700 down. Thank you, Jopper9. Quest Fanning says, same way Pelosi blocked extra security for the Hill despite expected 1-6 protests. 80s Kid, bet the Kavanaugh attempt is front page news on CNN and MSDNC. I bet they're disgusted. Oh, wait. Quest Fanning says, upset about the shooting, so goes to shoot somebody. Frank Friholi is here with the sticker party. Arbolt, at work. Ron Helton with the sticker party. Vampire Hunter D is here. Oh shit, you do a good Bernie impression. I'm telling you, it's not an impression. I feel the need to have people in breadlines. Because that could be a good thing. Look, think of the community that you get when you have people in breadlines, okay? Quest Fanning says, why take the job if you don't like kids? Ban assault teachers. Everyone should remove their kids from the corrupt system, says Spartan. They're either grooming them with LGBTQIRIMIGXTAPIDAMGXTYAL+, or beating them. At least beating is illegal. Vampire Hunter D says, jail moms will be excited to meet these teachers. Huh. Quest Fanning, great job, ladies. Reinforce my stereotypes about foreigners. '80s Kid says, those teachers have fine American names. And that nice, fine American headdress, too, by the way. Quest says, we forego my wife bringing in money. Guess what? Money can be tight, but we budget so we can afford to travel, etc. Yeah, Quest, you've also got a really good job. I know what you do. And yeah, you can afford it. The other day, I gave Franny a pep speech related to the fact that kids are starting summer vacation. Time to make your gains. Homeschooling 365. Although chronologically, she'd be entering 2nd grade in September. Instead, Franny's effectively entering 5th grade. She's already started algebra. Spartan says, things they do not teach in public school. How to grow food, how to do your finances, how to understand the job market. 600. Yes, 600 episodes. I've been busy as a one-armed paper hanger this week, but I'm going to post at least once with something relevant. Have we settled the J6 question? Would that be the J6Q? No, we have not. Spartan confirms, yes, he is in Europe. I thought you had mentioned that at one point, but I couldn't remember. So you're weighing in on American politics on European side. But the other question is can you hear the missiles? And by the way, the rain did not wait until I got to work. It is now pouring. Oh well, when the truck shows up, it no longer is my problem. All right, we're done. Oh goodness, it's raining like hell out there. Oh, the thunder's coming right as we're getting out of here. So not only are you going to get downpour rain, but now there's going to be a thunderstorm too. All right. Well, with that, that's the opportune time to get out of here because, hey, maybe something lightning will strike and it'll take the internet down. Or shut the computer down right in front of me again, just like it did that one day. Remember that? I'm sitting here. I just switched articles at the top of the show, and all three screens went just blank on me, and everybody starts texting me like, hey, your stream went down. What happened? Thanks to those of you who have my number, by the way, too, for that. But, yeah, we're going to head out of here for the day. Thanks, everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. I've got to get myself off to work and get a little breakfast, too, because I don't know that I have anything here that I can throw together quick and easy. So, with that, we'll be back here on Monday for more Contemporary. I'll probably throw another Fallout 3 stream in over the weekend, and we'll do another one on Monday, too, just because we've got the time to do so. Check out Porch Boys, because John's looks like he's going to be doing some gaming as well, so go and check that out. And join us here for more headlines. We'll catch up on some of the stuff we have going on here. We'll see what happens over the weekend, how much they try to cram in, but also make sure we're done by 10 o'clock for the Daily Ignoramus. Remember, there is no Daily Ignoramus today, so go hang out, enjoy your days, enjoy your work, and we'll be back here this weekend and on Monday. And there will be a podcast episode coming up as well, because I will be appearing, I don't even know the name of the show, but I'll be appearing with Papa Palpatine from the Real Off Hours server, having a conversation about the Clinton staffer's suicide and the Brett Kavanaugh attempt on his life. So come back and check the audio platforms for that as well. I'll have links to his platform plus the audio platform over here for that. Am I missing anything else? I don't think so. So with that, we're going to head out of here for the day. Thanks everybody once again, and we will see you next time over here on Contemporary. Stick around if you're on Twitch and we're going rating, and until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.